to welcome you to the message today, Series 3, Episode 5. A few weeks ago, we looked at the topic of pornography, and this week we're going to take it a stage further on as we look at human trafficking. This is a very serious topic, and we've included some hard-hitting videos, so we ask all teachers and youth leaders to watch this episode first before showing their students.
As we found out the other week, pornography has found a welcome home on the internet. And the truth is, it is a multi-billion-dollar online industry with over 100,000 websites and is one of the fastest growing online businesses.
We also learnt that pornography fuels sex trafficking. International Labour Organisation tells us that modern slavery is all around us, but most people don't even realise it. There are more people in slavery today than at any other time in history. More than 40 million people around the world are victims of modern-day slavery, generating annual profits of over $150 billion, which is as much as the combined profits of the 4 most profitable companies in the world.
William Wilberforce said, "You may choose to look the other way, but you can never say again that you did not know." This week, I've invited my band Brightline to share their thoughts on today's topic, and we'll be sharing various stories from Manchester-based charity Hope for Justice.
As usual, if you have any questions from this session, why not write them down and talk in your group with your teachers afterwards? If you're personally struggling with anything that we talk about, please do think of an adult that you trust that you can talk to ASAP. This might be a parent or guardian, a youth leader, or a member of staff at your school.
Let's start today with a hard-hitting spoken word written by Joshua Luke Smith to help us understand this topic.
It was the promise of new paradise, finance and married life, carried from strife, angry nights, drunken fights, a corrupt way of life. Compromised by his trusting eyes, she dreams to find freedom. Telling her tales of a better place, work, money, and somewhere safe. Her heart replaced by an act of grace. The broken smile on her face, his open arms, an expensive taste. Her heart begins to race for freedom. And she was shipped to unknown waters. She left 1 son and 3 daughters and said, "You know how much I love you, and how much I'm gonna miss you. In your dreams I'll kiss you and strive every single night of my life trying to bring you freedom." But a man that she had trusted wasn't there for her in customs. 3 men took her hand and they led her to a dungeon. They gave her filthy linen, took her passport and threw her into a room of around 50 women. She was mistreated, beaten, and kept like a dirty secret. They brought her men to sleep with, taunted her every weakness through the trauma and tears, the horror and fears. Every night she calls out, praying that God still hears. 'Cause in the morning, when the sun's breaking, her body starts shaking. The fact she's waking means those nightmares weren't nightmares, and dreams of escaping were just a heart making promises it kept breaking. Man, I thought I knew what fear was. But imagine kneeling in a dungeon with a 6'5", 300-pound man telling you to touch him like he's your husband, and he doesn't know your name. All he knows is your price tag, and all you know is the pain, the shame, and the wife that he might have. And there's no honor you can claim, and there's no way that you can fight back, so you just lie flat on stained covers. Watch him knock back a nightcap and pray that your pain is an escape for another sister, daughter, mother, any other held captive by man's animalistic habits. Man, I don't respect pimps. I spit upon what they practice. I spit upon any industry that tries to destruct intimacy. 'Cause when it's your sister getting caught up, you start to see it differently. It's interesting how these people don't understand the fact you have a penis doesn't mean that you're a man. 'Cause there's still over 30 million slaves today. And some don't even have a double figure for their age. If that doesn't riddle you with rage, check your heart still beating in the middle of your cage, and don't let an ignorance ignore it. And don't let a ludicrous lust support it. How can we enjoy life when they just endure it? If we're going in a battle, then I'm for it, 'cause we thought we separated ourselves from the gates of hell. But it's just down the road they swap, trade, and sell. Innocent women and children, punished and put in prisons like the criminal system. So we're coming to the dungeon to deliver the victims, to finish and diminish the image that man has pictured of women. You can catch her late at night on your television screens or on the top shelves in them dirty magazines, and she screams on the internet, crying for help, destructing herself. But the only men watching are the ones touching themselves. Brother, you're kidding yourself. These women are stolen, either from their homes or from knowing that they're golden. So we're exposing how lust is eroding man's conviction and character. How low are we going, believing it's a natural factor for any husband or father, boyfriend, brother or bachelor to watch captured sex slaves like they are Hollywood actors. That's why I'm clutching the hand of any woman sex trafficked or scammed, because you are not an object or sex on demand. You are the beloved. Be loved and understand that we will start the march in a battle through the heart of this man.
So what is human trafficking? Let's see what our students around the UK had to say.
Human trafficking, I guess, is like the exploitation of people who are probably more vulnerable and using that to almost gain leverage for them to work for you for really either underpayment or just for free, and it's slavery at the end of the day.
Human trafficking is like modern day slavery in my mind. It's when other people use people to do certain jobs that they don't want to do and use them for money and stuff.
I think it's where you solicit people and kids to do things, or indecent things. So it could be sexual, it could be drugs, for your own gain, for your own money gain.
It is when a person is taken and pretty sure forced to do something which they don't want to do. There's sex trafficking, where a person is sold into like a sex ring where they are pretty much raped.
It's the importation, exploitation of humans as if they're goods.
Maybe buying and selling people, or not even using them for money, using them maybe for sex or for labour.
They don't get paid, they're kind of owned and are just moved around and used.
Thanks, guys. Up next to share their thoughts on today's topic from the Message Trust, it's Daniel, Jacob and Lucy from Brightline.
Hey, what's happening? So this is my band, this is Brightline. I am Daniel, as you know. This is Jacob, this is Lucy. And if you want to find out more about what Brightline does, make sure you check us out on our socials at Brightline Band. And you can listen to our music on Spotify, and you can check our videos on YouTube. And today we're going to be looking at human trafficking. So Jacob, give us a bit of a definition what human trafficking is.
DHS.gov states that human trafficking involves the use of force, fraud or coercion to obtain some type of labour or commercial sex act.
In the Bible, in a book called Isaiah, it says this: "This is the kind of fast day I'm after, to break the chains of injustice, get rid of exploitation in the workplace, free the oppressed, cancel debts." It talks about injustice, exploitation, freeing the ill-treated, cancelling debts. And I don't know about you, but I would love to live in a world where these things were true. A world where we see something we don't like, that is wrong, that is immoral, but we stand up and we fight for what is right. In the same way Rosa Parks sat down on that bus, or how Martin Luther King Jr. stood up and led the American civil rights movement. Be that person that sees something and acts. Be someone who, when they see something wrong, they see an injustice, they don't walk away and pretend it doesn't exist. Do something about it. The first step of change is acknowledging that something needs to change. In 2021, where the world is such an incredible place, it breaks my heart to know that human trafficking is still a thing. It breaks my heart to know that there are men, women and children out there who were taken from their families and are forced to do things that they don't want to do. Maybe I won't be the one to change everything, but I can be the one to change how I think and how I fight for these people.
Founded Hope for Justice in 2008. They seek to investigate and rescue trafficking victims, assist in aftercare, hold traffickers accountable, and campaign on a wider level to improve awareness and legislation.
The Hope for Justice website tells us that modern-day slavery is where one person controls another by exploiting a vulnerability. It is often linked with human trafficking, where a person is forced into a service against their will, usually forced work or prostitution. The control can be physical, financial, or psychological.
We asked our students if they thought modern-day slavery happens in the UK today. If so, what? Let's hear their response.
I don't know. I think it happens in other countries, like poorer countries, but I haven't personally seen it in the UK, so I'm not sure. But I guess because it's such a bad thing, no one would be advertising it or being like, oh, look at me, I'm doing human trafficking. They do it on the low, if that makes sense.
As much as I'd like to think it doesn't, I'm pretty sure it does. I've not heard of, I don't read up on it enough, but I've not heard of anything in the UK. I know abroad it's happening a lot, but I've not heard of anything here, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I think it does. I just think it happens quite on the down low. Maybe not in London, maybe outside of London, especially with little kids. Yeah, because they obviously can't have control and they don't understand it properly.
I think it's a massive issue that I feel like we don't hear a lot about, actually.
Yeah, I do think it happens here. Obviously not as regular back in the 1800s, but sort of hidden in a way, where people have come from other countries and they've said, oh yeah, we'll bring you over, but you're in debt to us, and these people don't understand.
Yes, 100%. It definitely happens in the UK. Again, with people from different countries being promised, job opportunities, but they've actually entered into human trafficking situation, and then here in the UK, they're used as sex workers or for labour, and they're not being paid anything, and they're stuck in these situations where they can't escape, they can't leave.
There's always going to be some people who are just desperate for a job because they don't have one or the money to look after someone or themselves.
Very horrible, very illegal, very wrong situation.
Hope for Justice lists 4 main types of slavery today. Number 1, sexual exploitation is where a person is trafficked for sex, maybe controlled by violence, threats, substance abuse, deception or grooming, with extreme physical or psychological domination.
Number 2, forced labour. This is when work is done under the threat of a penalty such as violence or harm to family. Victims are often further controlled by debt bondage as well.
Number 3, domestic servitude is where a person is forced to provide services with the obligation to live on or in the property without the possibility of changing those circumstances. This may include cooking, cleaning, and childcare.
Number 4, organ harvesting. This is when a person who is trafficked and specifically chosen for the harvesting of organs or tissues, such as kidneys, liver, etc., obviously without consent, to be sold.
Hope for Justice are making a difference around the world, so let's meet Ben Cooley and see exactly what they are about.
When people first hear about modern slavery and the millions caught up in it, often they're overwhelmed by the statistics. They're heartbroken by the brutality and the violence of modern slavery, and they literally don't know what to do about fellow human beings being exploited for profit. One of the survivors that we worked with a few years ago said to me, "Ben, I didn't need someone to cry about this issue. I needed someone to do something about it." That's what we've built here in Hope for Justice, a thought-through professional response to the issue of modern-day slavery. Hope for Justice has a home and abroad strategy. Wherever modern slavery exists, we are committed to stamping it out. Our team are changing lives and ending slavery. All of them share one aim, because Hope for Justice is part of a movement of people who refuse to live in a world where human beings are treated as commodities and sold in front of their own eyes. We refuse to live in a world where the bodies of men, women and children are used for profit. When we decide enough is enough, things change. I've seen the goodness of humanity. I've seen the end of slavery. I saw it in the first girl that we rescued. In my mind, we already live in a world free from slavery. Just history hasn't caught up yet.
Now, as you can imagine, there are some many facts and stats around this topic. So let's hand it over to Adam and Destiny to get a greater understanding of the magnitude of this issue.
There were several incidents of human trafficking which took place in the UK in 2019, including a joint operation between the UK and Poland, which resulted in the arrests of 8 traffickers and rescued over 400 victims, a case of a foreign diplomat being accused of enslaving a domestic worker in the UK, which resulted in the Employment Tribunal declaring that diplomatic immunity would not protect against trafficking charges, and a horrific case in which the bodies of 39 Vietnamese nationals were found in the back of a refrigerated truck in Essex.
The European Commission's anti-trafficking report covering 2019 noted that sexual exploitation remains the most common form of trafficking. 92% of the time, women were the victims, and the majority of registered child victims were trafficked for the purpose of sexual exploitation. High-risk environments were stated to include prostitution, escort agencies, massage services, bars and nightclubs.
Trafficking for labour exploitation, on the other hand, affected 15% of all victims. 68% of all victims of this were male. High-risk sectors for labour exploitation include agriculture, construction, car washes and waste services, but also domestic work, the care industry and cleaning. If you or your family are meeting anyone working in these areas, keep your eyes open. You might be able to make a huge difference to someone in need.
Have you ever dreamed of becoming a pro footballer? It's not an uncommon aspiration, but unfortunately, it's one that has left a lot of people open to exploitation. The US State Department's Trafficking in Persons report from 2020 stated that within Europe's football industry alone, it's estimated that there are 15,000 human trafficking victims every year. That's a lot of hopeful athletes being victimised by people within the system.
The European Commission's anti-trafficking report noted that cooperation between countries and organisations had brought some tangible results in the fight against trafficking. In 2019, this work resulted in 825 arrests, 8,824 suspects and 1,307 potential victims being identified, 94 organised crime groups were identified or dismantled, and 1.5 million of assets were frozen in accounts and investments. That's a big impact, but even so, there is still loads more work to do.
In our Goals and Aspirations episode, we mentioned that the UN had created 17 Sustainable Development Goals to build a better world by 2030. One specific target calls upon member states to end abuse, exploitation, trafficking and all forms of violence and torture against children. I don't know about you, but knowing that so many nations are taking this issue seriously and working for change gives me hope that we might make this world a safer place to live in.
Thanks, Adam and Destiny. Up next is our lovely Lauren with Quote of the Day.
Martin Luther King Jr. said this:
Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. I love this quote. Let's not be silent about things that matter. Let's use our voices to bring change. How could you use your voice today to bring change against human trafficking?
Neil Wayne, the International Program Director for Hope for Justice, said this: "Human trafficking is one of the most serious and barbaric crimes profiting from human misery. Our response is a strategic one, focused on excellence, professionalism, and outcomes to help victims find healing, hope, and justice. Now is the time for us all to act and end suffering."
So the big question is, what can you and I do personally to help end slavery? Let's see what our students around the UK had to say.
What can I do to end slavery? Nothing. I'm just a girl in London. I can't do anything, I'm just a girl in London.
Honestly, I don't know. I think donating to charities and stuff and raising awareness, I guess, is like helpful, but me personally doing something to help, I don't know what I would do. Like, I'm a 19-year-old girl, I don't have superpowers to save the world.
Really bad, but I don't actually know. I think if I did more research on it, and there'd probably be, you know, like petitions, that kind of thing, but it's definitely something I should read more up on because I don't actually know.
I don't know, to be honest. It's not something I've really ever thought about, like how I can put an end to it.
It's got to be the bigger people in the world who can do something about it.
Well, I think me personally, anyone can sign a petition. You know, you may think, oh well, what's one? You know, what's one vote going to do? But if you think if 1 million all did it to one cause, then that's 1 million people, and that's a lot. I can write a letter to, you know, the local councillor or to the government, asking them what are they going to do. You know, put pressure on. That's what I can personally do.
Raising awareness so you can educate yourself and also share the message. Once you've educated yourself, just share it with people that are around you.
There's many charities that help to set people free from modern day slavery, and obviously supporting those is a huge one. But also I think just talking about it with people, your friends and family, because I think a lot of people don't even realise that it's going on. So kind of raising awareness that this is still a big issue in the world today, and not just in countries the outside the world, but in our own country.
Freedom exists to end child slavery. They've identified 7 ways to end slavery. Here are 5 of them. Number 1, gain knowledge. Number 2, shop informed. Many companies use low-wage workers overseas in unsafe and unsanitary factories. Sadly, this can sometimes lead to forced labour and child slavery. If you want to ensure your money is being spent ethically, do a quick search to check out what your favourite brands are doing to fight slavery. Number 3, support anti-slavery organisations. Number 4, speak up. Number 5, sponsor a child. While children are not the only enslaved population worldwide, they are the most vulnerable and at risk.
Sometimes it may seem too big of an issue to face it on your own, but it starts with just one person making a stand and getting their friends involved. Ben Cooley took that stand 13 years ago, and now he is the CEO of a global charity making a huge difference. There is hope for change, so let's look at what happened last year to be encouraged.
Mentioned there, hope for justice. Crucial role in uncovering what was going on and helping the victims, and he joins us now from Manchester.
In this case, Ben Cooley, thank you so much for your time. Now, your charity was actually praised by the judge in summing up today. Explain for our viewers a little bit more about how you managed to identify some of these people, how you were able to help them.
we've been working on this case since 2015, where our community outreach workers identified 2 victims, which led to the investigation by West Midlands Police, of which we've supported over 51 of the victims through this process. We've not only helped identify them, but then through our advocacy, through our supported them for the last 4 years through many hurdles that they've had to go through as victims of modern-day slavery here in the UK.
Promise of a better life, but that promise was soon brutally broken. Housed in squalor, they were treated like commodities.
Powiem, że niektórzy bezdomni lepiej żyją tutaj w Anglii niż ja przyjeżdżając tutaj do Anglii.
Peter is a charity worker who helped bring down the criminal network and rescue the victims. He asked us not to show his face after receiving threats. Today in court, the judge praised his bravery. It's thought that the gang made more than £2 million and that there could have been as many as 400 victims.
There are more gangs who are still operating. We won the battle, but the war is not over yet.
Great to celebrate the big wins when the unjust are brought to justice. But it's also mind-blowing when we hear someone's personal story when it changes from one of hopelessness to one of hope. Up next, we have Mary's story.
Marie grew up in Kandal province here in Cambodia. She lived in abject poverty. At the age of 10 years old, her mom and dad decided to move to Phnom Penh for a better life, a better future. She worked in a cafe and then went on to sell phones. And then she got this opportunity, but she was tricked. Marie was taken to a place just like this. She thought she was there for a legitimate job. She went into the room, but the man tried to abuse her. She ran out to reach out to the owner to explain what was happening and ask him for compassion, but he had none. And he forced her to go back into the room only to be violently exploited. Marie was just 13 years old. This abuse that she was subjected to lasted for 2 long years. It's thanks to Guardians, people just like you, that for the next 2 years, Marie was nurtured in a safe place, given education and therapy. I'm thrilled to say she is now graduated from our program and is pursuing her dreams in life.
មានតែមតនភាពខ្លួនឯងពេកក៏ពិបាកប៉ុន្តែគាត់ថាថ្ងៃនេះខ្ញុំធ្វើការនៅក្នុងហាងមួយគាត់ថាអត់ដែលនឹកស្មានថាខ្លួនឯងមានមកដល់ចំណុចហ្នឹងគាត់ថាអនាគតរបស់ខ្ញុំគិតថាវានឹងល្អទៅថ្ងៃអនាគតទៅមុខទៀត
What she has had to walk through in her life is just unspeakable. She has given her all to beat the darkness in her past, and she is a beacon of light. And I'm just overwhelmed today. I'm overwhelmed by the fact that that girl is laughing. That girl went back to see the girls in our program, and she said, "Don't give up." She said, "I know what you're walking through." I mean, you know, what a role model for us all. And I just want to thank you. You've played a massive part in her life change, and you are a hero to her, and she is a hero to me. Thank you.
When we asked Hope for Justice what inspires them to do what they do, Craig Press, Director of Digital and Communications, responded with this amazing quote. Martin Luther King once said, "Use me, God. Show me how to take who I am, who I want to be, and what I can do, and use it for a purpose greater than myself." This is something that inspires many at Hope for Justice in our mission to end slavery and change lives. Our work aims to bring hope to those that have given up on ever receiving it and to bring justice to the oppressors. We aim to rescue and restore which is true to what the Bible teaches us through the work of Jesus.
As we said in the beginning, if you have any questions from this session, why not talk about it in your groups afterwards? Also, if your teacher or leader would like to extend this session, you can access the questions that accompany this episode by following the link in the description on YouTube.
If you are personally struggling with any of the content, please do think of an adult you can trust and chat with them ASAP. Don't wait. There are many great websites and charities that we can signpost you to that can inform, equip, and support you moving forward. So why don't you check some of these out? And maybe you can start off with Hope for Justice or IJM, which is the International Justice Mission, stopthetraffic.org or A21.org, and of course, Childline.
Don't forget, many of the bands that you see on the message today are releasing new content on their socials every week. Once a month on a Friday night, all the Message Trust bands get together for one massive show called Higher Live. The band's YouTube channels are on the screen, so why don't you check them out now?
See you next week.